Hey, thanks for joining me. My name is Steven Speck. I run an investment firm and we invest in multifamily real estate. Today, we're talking about the headlines that have come out recently in the last couple of days about rent caps. President Joe Biden has come out and said that he wants national rent caps on landlords. That is, that landlords can only increase their rents by a certain amount a year. And it just blew up the news. I got tons of text messages from people who invest with us that are asking, what is this about? What is this 5% rent cap? And getting all excited about it. So, what is the actual details of it in terms of what he actually proposed? And we'll get into what my thoughts are on it. So, when I read through the headlines and I actually start to open up news articles, apparently what what Biden has proposed is uh, a plan that would require landlords to cap annual rent increases at 5%. Now, if you don't increase uh, or if you don't cap your rent increases to only 5% or less, you would lose some tax benefits, is what it sounds like. And that's a huge reason people like investing in real estate, is because of the depreciation. That is a non-cash expense that allows them to reduce their taxable income while holding on to the cash, kind of an accounting part of why people like real estate. Now, this would only apply to corporate landlords, of which I guess we are defined as a corporate landlord because we own way more than 50 units. So anybody under 50 units, this wouldn't apply to them. Um, Anyone above, it would, according to the proposal. Now, to the people, to our investors and people who ask me, what do I actually think about this? Here's what I actually think about this. I think this guy right here, Mr. Biden, Joe Biden, President Biden, is pandering to his base. I don't think anything of it. I do not believe that this, 5% rent cap is actually going to go through for a lot of reasons. But I think he's on the ropes. He's in trouble, and he needs to shore up support within his base in his party to secure the Democratic national nomination for president here in this election. And that is why he's proposing this, because a lot of people are angry about how unaffordable housing has gotten. And this seems to get a lot of traction with his base. So I think it's a base play. I don't think that there's really anything doing. I don't think that this dog hunts, as they would say. And I think it's going nowhere. Now, what we can do and what we're going to do is actually play it out forward, and we're going to take an example of why rent caps like that are a bad idea. And here's an example from a property that we bought, and we'll walk through it. So 2 years ago, I believe it was 2.5 years ago, we bought a property that was renting for an average of $620 per month per door. And we had units. So this was the average. And we had units in our property that were renting for $500 to $520. Now, these were 1,000 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 bath in your normal Midwestern mid-market community, a tertiary city, but one that does have economic growth, and there's no reason for them to be this low. Okay, so we had some units that were $500 per month, and we'll erase this one right here. The average was $620. Okay, so for us to buy this and to actually provide a return to our investors and a good place to live, or good options for people to live, we needed to get the rents to 775 per month. Okay, and we needed to do it in like 1.5 years. Okay, now we can already do the math, and we can take this number minus this number, or this number divided by that number, and you can see that it's a huge increase. It's like 50% higher. So we have to take these rents and get them 50% higher than where they are when we took over the property. And people are like, hey man, you're going out, you're trying to rip these people off. They had it at $500, and you're trying to take it to 775 or $800 or whatever, any number above that. Okay, here's my point. So this is like a 50% rent increase that we're going to do in 1.5 years. Now, how can we justify as that being ethical? Okay. Well, we know what market rents are, and market rents are this, right? But we know that the available supply in the market that we bought this property in of quality non-dated units. What does non-dated mean? Non-dated means that they are 2020 or newer finishes, that they're less than 10 years old in terms of their finishes. Finishes such as light fixtures, door handles, appliances in the units, carpets, flooring, hard surface floorings, stuff like that, vanities in bathrooms. Okay, people want stuff that looks like it wasn't built in the 1970s, even if it was taken care of in the 1970s, and they're willing to pay for it, right? So right now, our goal, this is a multi-phase investment, and our first leg or first part that we have to execute is to get it from here to here. Okay, because at this, even for the dated units, that's the where they should be. You're saying, well, that's still mean because you still have dated units, and you were just talking 10 seconds ago about nice new units and all stuff like that. Correct. Here's the problem with keeping it here. All of our expenses are higher than the original operator. We have debt that's higher than the original operator. When you buy a property, the tax is reset. So our tax burden or our tax liability is significantly higher than the original buyer. Our insurance is higher than the original buyer. So these expenses are going up, but the top line of the business or the top line of those apartments didn't go up. What that means is at the end of the day, there's no money left over to do improvements, to modernize units, to give modern, good quality housing to people. Okay. It's not, you can't just have housing, it has to be quality housing. And if there's not enough margin there, because if we just continue to operate at this level here at the $500 per month, like there's not enough margin at the end of the day. You're basically operating at or below cost. Okay. And so we can't increase the quality of the housing. And people want the quality of the housing. And I'll give you an example here. I'll erase this. We actually took a unit just to make sure that we were doing right, just to make sure that we were, correct, that we could push rents. And we did all new laminated vinyl plank flooring. We put new countertops in, a new sink, a new light fixtures, obviously new carpeting, new vanities, new flooring in bathrooms. I mean, we made this place pretty nice. And I can actually let me pull up a picture of the apartment that we did, and I'll show it to you what it actually looked like when we were done. I'm going to pull it up on the website that we have for the property. Okay. And I'm going to switch over there right now. Let's see. Okay, so you should be able to see it. This is what the end product looked like. Okay, this is luxury vinyl plank flooring. This was all yellow, and now it's white. These doors have been cleaned up, painted up. You can see in the kitchen, new countertops. We do have some dated things, but honestly, I mean, we can go to the video and we can go through a better look. I mean, look at that. That's what it looked like before. This yellow right here, legacy 2-bedroom. That's what it looked like before. It was in good condition, but it's very, very, very dated. And there should be this one right here. Now look at it after we go through and we've updated it, and the picture quality isn't as good. Look at the lights up there. Look at the bathroom. Look at the flooring, new vanity. Look at that. Finishes are nicer. This is where people want to live. Now, all this stuff takes money to do. Okay. We can't afford to do that and charge, I'll switch my screen back to where it was. We can afford to do that and charge $500 a month. So the unit that you just looked at, the finished unit, we charge $1,000 per month. Okay. That's 100% increase. Okay. Now the market is willing to pay that 100% increase because it took us less than 2 days to get it rented at $1,000 per month. So this is what people want, and there's more than one person that wanted this unit. This is what we currently provide. Okay. And we can go into talking about economic profit and stuff like that and what it indicates to us, and the difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit and which one does greater benefit for society. So there's a huge demand for this because there isn't a lot of supply in the market for that. Okay. But if we are capped at 5%, then that nice newer place that people are dying to live in, they want to live there, they don't get the opportunity to live there, even if they go out and work harder, make more money, stuff like that. So right there, that is one huge problem with rent caps. Okay. It hurts us as investors, but then it actually hurts the people who want to live there because people want to live in that. They don't want the 1970s dated paint. They want the 2020 feels in fixtures, even if it's an older property, but it's still significantly cheaper than, a brand new build property. Okay. So that's one reason why rent caps don't work. Okay. Or that's one problem that rent caps would create. Here's another problem uh, about rent caps. We've actually tried rent caps in multiple cities before. Take a look at New York. Take a look at California. Let me share my screen again. Here's another article that we can go look at. Rent control doesn't solve housing shortages. From Forbes, a number of states and municipalities have implemented some form of rent control in an attempt to rein in steadily increasing costs of rental housing across their communities. These rarely have the intended effect of increasing the supply of housing for low-income residents. However, in 2019, California and Oregon enacted statewide versions of rent control, which capped the annual allowable rent increases. Cities like St. Paul, Washington, D.C., San Diego, and San Francisco recently strengthened existing rent control laws, and New York increased the penalties for violating longstanding rent control laws. Numerous other states and localities are currently considering implementing some version of rent control as well. Now, let me ask you this. What does St. Paul, Washington, D.C., San Diego, San Francisco, and New York City all have in common? Wildly unaffordable housing, okay? And rent controls have been there for a long period of time. They're not a new thing. So what does that tell you? That tells you that clearly something is wrong with this approach. And what is that? If you cap the price that people can make or that people can charge, you're disincentivizing new construction of housing, not to mention their ridiculous zoning and ordinances and the difficulty it is to deal with those cities in terms of building new supply and the cost. The cost to build new supply is incredibly prohibitive. Okay. All of these places have wild disparities between the rich and the poor. They have the most severe disparities between the haves and the have-nots. Why would we want to take some type of program that these people have implemented a long time ago that has caused this problem to exacerbate and then try it across the country? Oh, yeah, it's a terrible idea. Ohio, for example, actually has banned the idea of rent control across the state of Ohio. Ohio cities won't be allowed to impose rent control under laws signed by Governor Mike DeWine. He's a Republican. Ohio cities will be blocked from imposing rent control measures on landlords under a bill signed into law by Governor DeWine. This was 2 years ago in 2022. Okay. Ohio has way more affordable housing than a lot of those cities that we just looked at. Even Columbus, Ohio. And you're like, well, Columbus isn't the same booming, blah, 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 blah. Look, have you ever been to Columbus, Ohio? Place is booming. Like the amount of money flowing into that city, the amount of people flowing into that city, unreal. I mean, you're talking billions and billions and billions and billions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into the city. And they still have way more affordable housing than those other cities. Okay. Why? Because of a lack of rent control, government edicted rent control. Okay. that's why, yeah, we're multifamily providers, so you could say that we're biased. But at the end of the day, if you're looking out for the tenant, okay, just like what we showed or what I showed a second ago about this example about the $1,000 unit versus the $500 unit, and people are willing to pay the $1,000 unit, you're these people are benefiting from what we're doing in terms of increasing the quality of available housing to people, and they're willing to pay for it. Why? Because $1,000 per month is way better than $3,000 a month trying to buy a house. Okay, $1,000 a month for a remodeled, upgraded 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 1,000 square foot apartment is way better than $3,000 a month for a house that you still have to upgrade. You still have to put a bunch of money down. Like, this is a better solution. Okay. So there's too much, end of story. There's too much, there's too many things that are going against this idea of rent caps. Okay. They don't work. They've shown not to work. Biden's not super serious on this to begin with. He's doing this to try and shore up support within his rank and file. That's the reason that this is coming out, and it's very unlikely that this will get passed. And it's a bad idea. It has never worked and will never work. So rent caps that conversation needs to go away. Anyways, I wanted to share this with you because I had a lot of questions about it. So I thought it was pretty important. So we would talk about it this week on our Zoom call. So thanks. Look forward to talking to you next week.